The tiny green and blue sphere floated in star-flecked expanse of darkness. It was singularly vivid, the fervent mixture of colors so rare outside of forming star clusters and nebulas that it took Nikia's breath away. She hadn't expected to see it again. The ancients believed the destruction was several more eras away, but things had taken a bad turn and evacuation was necessary. Now. And not everyone could be taken in. Nikia felt Rafine's approach to observe the planet from behind her. They stood in silence for a few minutes, the faint hum of the ship's engine lulling them into a dreamy state as the tiny planet grew in the window. Nikia found her voice first.
They just reach a certain stage of development and rot completely, don't they?
Hearing the pain in her words, Rafine slid an arm around her waist and leaned his cheek against her hair.
It's just so beautiful,
Nikia whispered. And it will be again, after the destruction, the resurrection, he said.
But it won't be the same. Not anywhere close, and not for a very long time.
Rafine nodded in agreement. It would be millions and millions of years, very likely, before the colorful planet was anything like it appeared now. Long after Nikia and Rafine and all the children of the ancients had gone back to Stardust. Nikia suffered an almost irresistible urge to reach out toward the poor primitive little planet. They didn't even appreciate what they have, she said. They just don't realize how rare it is.
You're sticking up for them?
No, but he was a little bit, excusing them. Not everyone left behind would be guilty of the destruction, not directly, but many. And creatures who would willingly extinguish their own species and remain so callous about all the others were the most dangerous sort. They had been taught that only the purest, only the truly innocent could be spared. Rafine wondered about the rightness of this, but he obeyed the ancients, and he accepted the limited capacity of the ship.
The regret I hear in your voice?
Nikia pressed.
Is that for war they bring on themselves, or the loss of something so lovely?
Both.
Nikia exhaled angrily and pulled away from him. They're fools!
Yes, and yet. Wars were not unheard of among the less developed species, but they were still mind-boggling to the more advanced races, like the Danines. They had recorded wars on no fewer than 20 of the minor planets, where the more highly evolved beings, respectively speaking, rose up to slaughter the others. This generally happened on a similar scale, however. Small populations might be eradicated, but rarely did the inhabitants wipe out their own existence and clear their planet to its very simplest form of life. In fact, this would be only the second time such a thing would occur, so far as the Nadines knew. This view of the vivid planet would likely be obscured for millennia by whirls of noxious clouds hiding whatever still remained beneath. Only the most basic life forms would live to resurrect this planet. Were those the true innocents? They're bringing it on themselves. They're doing it to themselves. Nikia was fighting to hold on to her anger, twitching and shaking now with the strain of it. She wished they could save everyone. But it was impossible, and Rafine knew it. And it was better for Nikia to harden her heart and place blame. It would be easier for her to leave them to their destruction that way. We'll save all the ones we can, he reassured her. And Nikia turned back to him and buried her face into his cool, smooth neck. Still, the ship approached the vivid planet. Far below, on the blue-green marble, a thoroughly freckled girl dragged a rusty wagon down the sidewalk. Tepid lemonade sloshed with the rumble of the wheels. Watching her, a woman sat on the stoop of her home, the door behind her hanging drunkenly from the hinges. She was hot and unhappy, and hopeless. A paper-thin t-shirt drooped from her peeling shoulders.
"Lemonade,"
The girl asked.
50 cents.
I'll give you a quarter. The girl paused, considering.
You can have it for free.
The woman found the drink bitter. It showed on her face. A lanky mongrel ambled up to them, tail wagging. A dirty tennis ball dropped onto one of the woman's feet, leaving a smear of dog slobber shining on her toes. Yuck! I don't want that! She pitched the ball into the neighbor's yard, beyond the chain-link fence separating their trailers. The dog, who had been able to leap the fence years ago, watched it with dismay. The tail ceased its wagging, and she nosed the woman, who pushed her away. Get out of here! She aimed to kick at the dog, but it didn't connect. The dog wandered over to a puddle of fetid water, edged with slimy green. The girl, feeling as sorry for the dog as she did for the woman, caressed the animal, crooning softly, and was rewarded with a friendly damp nose to the neck. The dog, even in her thirst, had never begrudged the girl a kindness. The dog was still lapping, and the girl was still patting, when an unearthly whine sounded above them. The dog cocked her head, and her tail began to raise a cloud in the dust. The girl gaped, and the woman cursed in disbelief. On the other side of the world, a boy is in deadly trouble. When President Leader Guai found his pet rabbit, Honor, missing, he knew exactly who had done it. The grinning little miscreant with the crooked nose. He had always found that boy too fawning, too eager to please. Pulling back the covers in the morning from the President Leader's silk-clothed body, setting out President Leader's breakfast tray in the morning. He was always grinning, nodding, bowing, and there was no one else who could have taken Honor from her cage, from Guai's own bedroom. It's terribly convenient, really. President Leader knows the boy's family sympathizes with the rebels. Distant family, he was told. But it's enough. Guai remembered the minister who convinced him to take the boy in. He will be questioned as well with his family. Before an hour has passed, Guai has them all rounded up. Everyone suspected of disloyalty is marched to the palace grounds. The accusations no longer matter, and if the coming executions incited the rebels and fleshed out the unfaithful members of his council, all the better. He was prepared. The boy was not grinning now. He was quaking visibly, shaking. I am so sorry, Sibby said in a whisper. He had longed for the rabbit for months. She was soft and calm, and every time he held her, Sibby felt peaceful. I have brought her back, please. He rushed forward and placed a cage at President Leader's feet. Sibby knows it's foolish now, that having Honor back will change nothing. But he opens the cage door, and his face goes blank with horror. The rabbit is gone. I promise, the boy cries. She was here. Frantic, Sibby runs in a circle, looking vainly for the rabbit, while groans and cries arise around him in the courtyard, pleas for mercy, even as President Leader gives his order. It is so very simple, this spark that ignites the conflagration, and President Leader basks in the rising flame. High above in a ship that few see, enormous holds are filled with the new arrivals. Rafine is trying to catch Honor, who is limping her way around the room. Animals of every sort, mice, slugs, turtles, even a whale, have a sanctuary here. A cockatoo, her flight feathers just long enough to lift her into the air, flaps down onto Rafine's scaly head, and he bends an antenna toward her and strokes the soft contour of her neck. There are others, of course. They are two-legged and frightened and dangerous. They're in another area of the ship where they are being tended to separately for their own safety and the safety of the crew. They are young. It will be easier for them to adjust to their new lives than their older counterparts. Still, it will be harder for them than for the other animals. Some of them will never manage it. In one of the largest holds, Nakia is greeting still more newcomers. She rolls around on the floor, her 6 furry legs pawing and swatting the creatures who scamper and frisk about with her. She pauses to throw balls, 4 at a go, and puppies tear after them, exploding like shot pellets from a shell. A few, the older dogs, with their muzzles graying, who are not able to fetch as quickly, and who have longer memory, peer out the window to get one last glimpse of their former home below.